with all of you, and I think it's amazing to see the energy in the room, right? It's quite palpable. But on governance reforms, I think we've seen across India, lots of innovations from the government across many dimensions. I think we've seen the launch of the eShram portal. We have seen, the launch of e-office at scale. We've also, by the way, seen citizen apps being made by the government like Umang and others. And we've also seen Punjab and Haryana also, by the way, taking a lead in terms of, especially during COVID, in terms of citizen services, right? So I would really like to, by the way, understand from you, from the state, right, what is your vision for digitization, especially with respect to citizen services, and how are you going about it?
Thanks, Navtej, and Amit is also here. So just to start off, I would like to say Punjab is a very good ground to implement any of these innovations, whether you look at mobile coverage, connectivity, there are hardly any shadow zones. Whether you look at UID coverage, it is 100% plus. So you have a very good ground to start. And though I've just joined in the department, but I've seen they've done a stellar work, because earlier in the field as DCs or otherwise, we had just gotten an overview of it, and like Amit is presently. We are running an in-house software solution of eSeva, which is being manned by our software team in the back, and along with NIC, as we say, working in every state. NIC is already working. But already the systems were pretty good in the sense that you have around 430 plus services where there is a single window system, tracking, availability, regular updates to the citizens, whether what is the status of their application, and new services being onboarded. Then further innovations that are happening now, that like recently we have made the certificates. Earlier used to have a hologram stamp, now they are QR coded, just like the COVID certificates, and this applies for all certificates like income, birth. So the person can, the citizen can print out as many copies as they want at home, probably share. We are also looking at, things like a WhatsApp chatbot that MyGov has, or we are also looking for a single portal like uk.gov where everything is available on one portal. So these are the things we are doing. But what I want to say is that there is so much more to do. In any field today, citizen services delivery is, of course, the last mile. But even where you begin in governance, as we were saying that this is a digital governance summit, if you look at anywhere, like so Amit is DC Mohali presently, you can ask him, though Mohali is not so affected with stubble burning and farm fires, but there also ultimately you are presently applying technology. So the Punjab Remote Sensing Center will give you a 400 by 400 square meter location, pinpointed location of where the fire was. And that's not just thermal imaging, that's heat sensitive and other ways. It's getting more and more accurate. From that to any field, whether you are talking of crop management, so there is an application of IT or digital governance in every field. We would obviously like to increase it as much. And basically this department, which is the governance reforms department and which is also the IT department of sorts for the state, we basically are very, very open to adoption of new technologies. For example, we just recently signed an MOU with Vadhwani AI, which is the artificial intelligence arm. So though I also, as being part of the government, I would understand and I would say that we all need to work together, that it does sometimes become hard to procure innovation in government because there is like the procurement rules don't provide for that something is innovative, which is much easier to do in the, say, a private sector. You see, you can buy an idea per se. Here we need proof of concepts, we need things done in a particular manner. But yes, I would say that so again, to summarize what I was saying is that we have a good ground to begin with in Punjab. We're doing well, but we can do a lot better. I mean,
Yep. Thank you. Amit, what about you? What's your perspective from on the ground in terms of implementing some of these innovations, right? Some experience around that, and what else are you looking for going forward?
Well, thanks Navtej for raising this question, and Sir has set the ground very well that what the Punjab context is. Well, the ecosystem it's what I feel is it's in bit and pieces that dots are yet to be connected. Particularly, if I highlight the biggest challenge while implementing the schemes is that the biggest stakeholder is the HR, like the government staff itself. So that training and reskilling of the government staff turns out to be the biggest challenge while implementing these. On the other hand, our larger client is the citizen, and it's a huge diverse group. There are people who are very, the technology comes very handy to them, the young generation. But then you have the old age population, the women, old women, and all those. So how does the government prepares that interface so that everybody has equal access? So that kind of our solutions can't be like that simple. It's the client targeted. There's no one single targeted group with a certain skill set. This huge target group is there. It's very diverse. So what kind of interfaces there we have to do? So that is the challenge, how to build those interfaces which provide equal access to all the citizens. So these are two biggest challenges while I feel that is when we go for implementation of any solution in the citizen space.
So basically what you said was the interface, and number two, the skill and capacity building at the implementation layer, right?
Yeah, precisely. These are the two challenges which I identify. Now, of course, there are further challenges also, as Sir has mentioned. The departments feel the existing procurement rules are not supporting the next gen technology that is not fitting in with that. The procurement rules are still that which was for the hardcore engineering works, and for the whole focus of the procurement act rules is mostly around that engineering based procurement. So next gen technology probably needs a different set of procurement rules, I think.
Yeah, all I can say, Amit, is you're not the only state which is grappling with this, right? I think across the board we are actually coming across. But on the other hand, I've also seen a lot of sponsorship for Make in India startups. We've also seen actually marketplaces coming up with many companies where where it is very transparent, the pricing. So I'm sure some of that can help. But coming back to you, right, in terms of capacity and skill building of the government employees, right, are there any actions which are being taken here?
Couple of things. What Amit was saying is true, but it's also following a very generic curve. So whenever you introduce a new technology, so there is definitely a pushback. I remember from introducing e-office in DC offices, so the clerks there or the junior assistants, they simply said, we don't know how to work the computers. But today they've been able to learn that. So it's not that people can't learn, it's up to us. So whether it is, so the state ATI is there, but we are collaborating because Government of India and Niti Aayog has also done very good work in this, and they have made modules. So yesterday we were having a meeting with the World Bank where they were saying that we are coming up with modules so they were talking of Ministry of Finance of Government of India. So there will be a procurement module, which is a 5-hour module. So unless you have done that, you are not certified to be on a seat of procurement. So similarly like that, they would go to, so like we, Amit and me, we would have, or Saurabh there, we would have seen this in elections. So ECI says this, that even though you are an STM and you are a returning officer for a particular constituency, unless you pass their certification, they don't let you be a returning officer in that. So similarly in government also, we're planning to come up with something like this for different modules, for like procurement, for establishment. So you have a quick module of how people go through it, and then they are able to then certify themselves. Then everybody has a, a wish to learn more, to become better, and to have greater capacity. So that will definitely continue, and we are planning that. Although, let me also say that there are regular courses, there are regular programs at capacity building that keep on happening. Sometimes they go under the radar, but when new things come, whether it is e-office, whether there is PGRS, you do need to train people, and only then they pick it up. So that does keep happening. We would, of course, like to amp it up a little bit more. And sometimes I'd like to also say that what also happens is that TINA thing also works, that there is no alternative. So once I remember Vinnie ma'am used to be CS here, so she ordered that there will be no manual files. So that made everybody learn e-office faster, so that also helps in government.
No, this is great. I think we've also seen actually technology over a period of time does actually tend to become more user-friendly. I think recently we've been doing some work with NIC in actually creating the language modules, translation modules for India. So it is called Bhashini, which actually has 20 or 23 odd Indian languages getting translated simultaneously across. And that actually will get implemented in Parliament, so that they can actually have simultaneous translations going on when people are speaking in the vernacular tongue, right? Now, some of that, I think the aspiration to develop this was to make sure that the interface itself was voice-based. Because effectively, the best way to empower citizens is to actually go voice-based and make sure it is available on feature phones as well, and not only smartphones, right? So, in case the government here is interested, I mean, we'd love to actually, with NIC, pilot something like that. Because we're looking for one state to do a quick pilot on voice-based apps. Right? Yeah, but
The first thing to do is open system in Punjab.
Yeah.
That is what we are looking at.
So, which gets me to the question I was going to ask you, right? Now, you talked about the issues, but let me ask you about what are the 2 or 3 opportunities in citizen services which you see within the state going forward, right? Where you think you can significantly improve, some of the demands which citizens have.
Well, already Grishji has mentioned that the services which are particularly related to access to the certificates or kind of documentary evidences where the people are to. So that is a quick, most of these services per se are tilted towards the young generation. So they need the certificates for the education and other birth certificate and all those things. And they do have a good access to the phones, mobile phones, tablets, and a good number of that is again an opportunity when we were mentioning about the Punjab has a good number on the smartphone ratio per person. So that is an opportunity that Punjab has, and the young generation, if given, I think certain programs can be there, like there can be certain help desks which can bring out the people who are find the technology, because of technology these systems inaccessible, so that they can help in improving the access. These young people can bring in the other groups also onto the system. So these are the opportunities on which I think there's a quick space where it can, at least the kind of daily things for which people have to go to the offices. Already 400 plus 430 services are being given online. I think to scale up on that side itself is an opportunity available.
No, thank you. So we've also seen, this trend line actually in some of the advanced economies. Basically, from a time where government actually provides certain citizen services to start with, to a stage where you're literally segmenting the population, and for different types of population clusters, the services are actually fed to them. So, and actually that, by the way, requires at some stage a reorganization of the way government runs also. But on the other hand, we also see that, you actually have master databases of citizens coming in, where the models actually segment it out, and depending on what stage of your life cycle you are, it will actually push the relevant services, right? So, for example, if a lady is actually, she's gone to a doctor, is expecting, right? Then everybody from Poshan and anybody else, right, who's especially the prenatal people, they actually get connected to them on, proactively, not on demand, right? So, what you basically mentioned, right? If you already have 436, 430 you mentioned, services available, the next challenge will be on how do you do it proactively, give to people in a way that they can access it without, right? Now, an associated question with that, right? So you also actually gone through a version of this during COVID, where it was very proactively a new service was developed and given, right? So any learnings from there, which you feel in the long run we should retain and continue to work on?
So just first taking a small segue to what you were saying about the entitlement-based delivery of public services. So earlier my colleague and good friend was taking a PPT on big data. So Punjab is one of the first few states to come out with its own data policy. As you do understand that we have data situated in different departments. So say food has a data of 1.5 crore citizens who are taking a benefit of public service, PDS system, this thing. And then, but that data is stored in a certain format which may not be standardized. Similarly, a counter data is also stored with the Department of Transport having four-wheeler vehicles. Now, there is a disqualification in your food data that somebody who owns a four-wheeler should not be a beneficiary of the PDS. So if these two data were seamlessly talking to each other, then you could automatically weed that out. So many states have also gone ahead and started working on, like Haryana is working on that Parivar Pehchan Patra or something like that. So Punjab is also doing that, but I'm just saying that how to use this data, which already exists, is the step towards working towards this entitlement-based citizen service delivery. Secondly, also this data, this learning that you were talking about in COVID also, is that when you have at least, I would qualify later that good data, you can make good decisions. So suppose there can be inherent fallacies in the data that you are reading, in the sense that if you say, okay, so this is a positivity rate in these many districts is this much, this one is speaking, so then why is this happening? So it makes you take decisions based on that. If we are seeing dropout rate in schools, we can say that why in this region more? Is it because there are, then you can correlate it to, say, the other posts of teachers more empty in these districts, or are they more vacant, or what is happening? So that again then builds on use of technology and, as you were saying, big data to take decisions. So data-driven decisions then. So that also, I feel, has been one learning for us post-COVID. But I would also like to ask you that as a technology partner per se, or a big tech company, what all do you see sort of contributing or partnering in the government besides plainly software? Which of course, like you did speak of the language thing, which Amit would also agree is hugely beneficial for us here, but otherwise?
No, so I think, no, by the way, thank you. I think pretty much all learnings extremely valuable, right? I think this move towards linking data together and then actually mining it for the right information at the right time when needed is very important. But we've seen many roadblocks when it comes to doing this, right? I think the biggest roadblock I find is that people are not clear or about what they want to visualize and what decisions do they want to take. So generally these, so the worst thing you can do is actually start it off. I know we are both part of IT, right? But start it off as an IT project where you start doing these massive identity-based databases to come in. And then you wonder what to do with it, right? So typically, I think if you look at even the way Microsoft works, and I think I can talk for some of the other large tech companies as well, the move is actually, we are actually shifting away from solving for IT to solving for citizen outcomes or business outcomes, right? So the question you should be asking is that, let's say on tax, what is it that I want to take a decision on, right? Is it actually collections? Is it by percentage population giving taxes? Is it actually the sentiment of the taxpayer? Is it about the time they spend in terms of doing all this? Is it actually about tax evasion or whatever is it? I think the moment you go from there and the trick is to actually get 5 or 6 departments coming in and talking about what they want to get out of it. Once that is clear, I think then the database linkage, the big identity projects can all go together, right? And so for us, by the way, that also means that the way we work is also now very different. So I wouldn't, by the way, literally say, okay, now let's actually build this database and we'll figure out. Today, what we are saying is, listen, what I want to figure out is to how to make sure that student, from the time he, by the way, goes to school to the time he gets job, I want to make sure, let's say, he doesn't drop out or she doesn't drop out. Let's say that is the outcome. Or if he or she drops out from formal education, I want them skilled in something which is job oriented. So the moment you define the problem like that, I think then working backwards, it's very easy to figure out all the tech needed to solve it, right? So that would be the push, and by the way, which will bring me to my next question as well, right? That what role do you see, people like the tech majors like us playing in this space, given that now technology is galloping, there is massive adoption of technology both by the citizen and the governments as well. And of course, while you will grapple with, as you were saying, with some of the procurement and other issues, but my sense is it will get solved over the next 4 to 5 years anyway, right? So with that, how do you see the partnership and collaboration going forward?
I personally feel that this partnership and collaboration is only going to strengthen from, I'll give you a small example. So we have a state data center which is located in Mohali. So the first question that came up was that we would be getting some central assistance. Do we need to just upgrade it or go for huge expansion? So some states have gone in for expansion. So immediately the answer was that let's not do that. Let's wait for 2 years. Maybe cloud is cheaper because we don't need to have so much of infrastructure, hardware, when cloud is cheaper. So I'm just giving you an example, a very open example. So the first discussion that happened was that, but can we host government data on cloud which is not owned by government? So the immediate answer was that even Government of India's DigiLocker is probably hosted on AWS or on Azure. I'm not sure which one, but it's definitely hosted with some tech partner. So that's just an example that how this integration becomes deeper and together. And this continuously, my simple point here would be the more tech we use, the more strengthened the partnership will be and the collaboration has to be.
Great. No, thank you. I mean, what's your view on the same question?
Well, the question originated from the integration of the various departments which are working in the silos. Since we are on the ground level working in the field, so we feel the pinch day in, day out, that it's really difficult to get the data from the various departments which is usable by the other departments. And as you raised the question that various departments have to work in tandem and design a project with a clear objective. But nonetheless, what happens is that the moment the projects gets rolled out, first things is that there are clear objectives, and by the time the project is clear, the technology moves faster. It goes to the earlier it is on computers, now it is on the tabs and the mobile phones. Then you need a mobile version of that. So what happens is that we are always in a chase mode rather than be in an active mode. It's always in the reactive phase. We keep on chasing that. So the departments where that I think it requires a complete makeover, whether what is our access policy, we have to be liberal with that. How do we open up, how do we make it access possible for the other departments or various levels of the government? What are the rights of the various levels? How do they access, what data they can use, what data at the department level government can use, what the data the field officers can use. So all that has to be decided to make it, the kind of development that is really fast paced and to be in time rather than chasing, being in the chase mode always. So this is the other question, what the, other than this data security and other, that is.
So I do understand that. So sometimes what does happen is that priorities are seemingly different. In the end, they converge. But when different partners are working together, what happens is, so we work a lot with NIC, but NIC also works in a certain fashion, so we just need to customize that to our level. But let me just say this much, how use of technology has actually changed the working, which Amit would totally agree on any level. So for example, even with the smallest thing that we started was like maybe 5-7 years back, it was started that when these Suvidha Kendras came and you started tracking every application, so everybody knew what has been applied for, where it is pending, how long it has been pending. That changed the power of the bureaucracy, so as to say, of not doing anything. And many times not to take a decision was also a decision. Now you could not do that, in the sense you had to take a decision. So from that to today, e-office, though, I mean, districts are picking up, but Amit has worked here in the state government for a long time to know that in the government of Punjab, most of the files are moving on e-office. So there is a responsibility with that file even being in your inbox. You want it dealt with. You know, you don't want to put it till tomorrow. So that has actually changed the mindset. And yes, you many times do play chase up. But as and when we have used technology, there have been some consequences which we may say were not entirely desirable. But in the end, I feel that we've gotten a lot out of this, which we have to be very thankful for.
Oh, great, thank you. Maybe what I'll just make 2 or 3 points, right? I think the first one is that I've actually been a management consultant in my previous life, right? So for 20 odd years, I think we always thought that how do we actually break organization structures to break hierarchies, right? Because every organization ultimately is a hierarchy and actually has substructures in it, which are all silos, right? And always the issue has actually been on how do you make the silos to work together. And by the way, this also gets amplified in any other organization, including government, right? I think over the last 5 to 7 years, as we have these common data models and common databases coming in, I think finally we have some sort of a solution emerging in which hierarchies can be broken through technology without actually disturbing the org structure itself. Okay, which is actually quite a big thing. Otherwise, what people would do, they would come and reorganize departments. They would combine 2 departments or 3 departments, and then they'll try to solve the problem. So I think the first thing is the moment we look at technology that way, that it is actually a way to break through organization hierarchies and silos, then suddenly our perspective changes. The second piece, I think there is always a debate about cloud versus non-cloud. I want to just put that directly on the table, right? I think ideally you would use, I think the first thing is, the issue is we actually don't have any data classification across the board. Okay, everybody thinks that data is important, but actually 80% of the data, by the way, has, unless it can be identified to somebody, has no real value, right? So the most important piece is on how do you get the data classification sorted. And unfortunately in India, there is no single data classification methodology, right? And no standardization. And hence the debate becomes reasonably murky. But if you look at it from where the tech companies come, right? The reason cloud is important is because what it allows, from an analytics perspective, it allows all data to be together in one warehouse. And then it doesn't have to move across servers to get it combined. I mean, just think about it as 5 different Excel sheets if you were to, get data out of them. And they were all residing in 5 different computers. You would actually have to go into one pickup, versus put them all together in one place, link them all together, suddenly data starts making sense. So that was one reason. The second reason was that sometimes new software development is actually cheaper on the cloud. Okay, because for us, instead of people buying many servers and doing this, cloud actually what it does, it actually makes it, it consolidates everything, and you need less compute capacity than you would. And hence, by the way, software development and software service is cheaper, by the way, okay? Finally, the third piece. We also can say that today, secure from a security perspective, most of the attacks now are actually happening through bots and software. No human being can actually sit there and repel them, okay? The only way they work is if there is a model, which is, by the way, running all the time, which is learning all the time, okay? And which is interpreting signal which is coming from outside a person or a desktop. Only then can you actually monitor and, by the way, control the malware, right? So from these three perspectives, you will find that, all the tech companies actually do push cloud a lot. But actually, for a department, I would say, or for government, I would say, get your data classification right. And then it is better to actually have hybrid architectures. The real ones, the most important, super classified, super secret stuff, please put them in your state data centers, right? Others, my sense is, the moment you work backwards from citizen, right? So that's the second piece, right? And finally, the third one, I would say that, the real digital transformation happens when it moves away from IT. It's when every department is actually equipped to write its own little programs, own little apps, and then you see proliferation of these things happening. Because then you have truly democratized the way you're solving citizens' problem rather than leaving it to one department to do, right? So if I was in your place, right, there were three pushes I would give, right? Number one, be very clear about data classification. Number two, be clear on where you need innovation and security versus where it's just a question of just keeping it in your own prem, right? And number three, how do you equip your individual departments to actually start writing in a low-code, no-code way any apps, which, by the way, then allow them to solve citizen problems, right? Those would be the three final messages. Okay, with that, I mean, anything from your side, and then maybe after that, closing from you, right?
Yeah, what you're saying is right, but when actually realizing it to the ground, one or two issues, what you have said is aptly fine. One or two issues is when the departments are working alone, there are multiplicity of solutions available, and it's currently I am having password and this I have to work on, I think 6 or 7 portals, separate portals. So can't there be as a deputy commissioner only have 6 or 7 portals I have to go and clear the file or the request or something. So this becomes quite complex, at one level, and it's really difficult to manage all this. And when we have multiplicity of solution, I worked in water supply and sanitation. At one stage, we were handling 6 or 7 software solutions within the department. Now, all these solutions are to work by the stakeholders, the lowest rung of the employee, like JEs or the SDUs. So that much of change management is really a task, that to work on 5 or 6 parallel solutions and pushing them, as Sir had mentioned, that there is no other alternative but to push them. So it eventually comes to a stage where there is a huge resentment and blockage of the initiatives. So that is the stage we basically think that we have to work. While designing the solutions, it should be a very, very clearly chalked out territory, phase-wise manner, so that change happens in a smooth manner. So that is it. The complexity should be less while doing all this. That is the only idea.
I think I'll just answer what, and then we can ask if somebody has any questions, is that, so this does happen. Basically what happens is, as he was saying, during the growth journey or the infancy, because somebody wants to try out something new, we don't say no. We say, okay, you also do it. It takes time for it to get integrated. For example, so while you're saying you have 6 logins, that's true, even I do. So you have an e-office, you have HRMS for leaves. So till e-office and HRMS now, so somebody wants to make, so I'm just giving you an example. So there was somebody, though e-office has this provision, there was yesterday only a talk of how do you want to keep track of DO letters. So let's have another portal for that, or let's manage. So yeah, so what happens is, because right now we are not at a stage that we want to stop somebody making an innovation, even if it's small. So we say, okay, you go ahead, you do your thing. Let's see how it fits into the big picture. Does it become that big? of course, as Navtej is saying, that once we progress to a space that it is all easily integratable at a larger scale, interoperable, then obviously that will be the ideal solution. So that's it from my side. It's been lovely talking to you. If anybody has any questions, or not even questions, if wants to say something, more than welcome, please. एक mic.
My question is related to Microsoft Teams. Saurabh Dadwal, and I am from Department of Governance Reforms. I'm taking care of cybersecurity as a deputy CISO. So DGR sir is taking care as cybersecurity CISO roles in Punjab state. So my question is related to digital workspace. In digital era right now, every government sector having multiple employees, having no AD architecture to secure their environment. For example, if I am a bureaucrat and I am traveling from one place to another place, my laptop is theft and there is no security on their laptop, on their digital assets to secure. As in different perspective, I am taking an example of any big tech companies like Microsoft. Microsoft is using AD domain to secure all the environments. So Punjab is only single state right now which is thinking about to secure workplace together. So is there any solution except from AD architecture or Azure solution that is a case study from Microsoft helping us on that technology to secure digital workspace along all the employees that are working in digital ecosystem?
Yeah, Vikram, who's sitting right next to you, do you want to answer this question? You have the expert right next to you, Saurabh. Why don't you?
No, I think it's a very thoughtful journey, what Punjab has envisioned, especially from AD authentication perspective and end-device protection perspective, because it all goes in terms of securing the last mile, which is in the hands of officials. I'll come back to you with a case study where it has been done successfully. I have a lot of examples from corporate world. I need to dish into if there are any government or public sector customers who have done it. I have examples from public sector PSUs. So banks like State Bank of India and all have already implemented this. But from any state government in India who's doing this, I think Punjab would be the first one to do this if we go on that route.
Yeah, so let me just build off that, right? I think this was actually an ask which has come to us from NIC as well. And we are, as we speak, we are right in the middle of doing a secure mail pilot for NIC. Basically, there have been many phishing attacks all over the place, right? So, and there are also cross-border actors at play. Unfortunately, we haven't found, to be honest, any on-prem answer to this, which is completely secure. That I can categorically say we haven't. Okay. So what we are trying to do for them is actually figure out some sort of a hybrid setup, in which you can, by the way, depending on what is the severity level or what is the level of importance of a particular government official or person, you give them varying level of security, right? So, and by the way, the ones which are on the higher level of security will actually be cloud-based. The ones which are on the lower level of security will actually be, hybrid-based. And what we are trying to do is work with NIC to see whether a new domain can be rolled out beyond gov.in, which is a version of that which can be rolled out to the states to, by the way, adopt. So that's what is going on. My sense is it's actually still another 6 months away. But there's a lot of, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to take out Exchange, stripping it out for Government of India, figuring out what the AD architecture should be, what the endpoint security should be, so that this kind of works. But hopefully if that works, it actually then provides you with a single identity and one central login with multi-factor authentication across multiple devices with encrypted data. so that even if your device gets hacked, your data is actually encrypted, right? So that's broadly where we are trying. This will actually be unlike the US and others, for a developing market, this will actually be a first of its kind. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I would request all the panelists to kindly stay back. Let me invite on the dais once again Mr. Kumar Saurav Raj, Special Secretary, Home Affairs and Justice Department in Government of Punjab, to hand over to present the speaker mementos to our three panelists, starting from the right. Mr. Amit Talwar, the first memento for Mr. Amit Talwar, Deputy Commissioner, Mohali, Government of Punjab. Speaker memento for Amit Talwar, Deputy Commissioner, Mohali, by Kumar Saurav Raj, Special Secretary, Punjab. The next memento for Navtej Bal, Executive Director, Public Sector, Microsoft India. Thank you, Navtej, for moderating the session so well. The Next Gen Technology to Redesign the Citizen Services at Scale. And the last memento for Mr. Girish Dayalan, Special Secretary cum Director, Department of Governance Reforms, Government of Punjab. Thank you, Dayalan Sahab. Very well laid out thoughts.